Hello and welcome to the Final Frontiersmen. This is lesson 4 of our Star Trek Adventures Academy series. In this series, we are doing a rules refresher for the role-playing game Star Trek Adventures. In this lesson, we are going to focus on the last major element of the character sheet, the element that really enhances the narrative aspect of Star Trek Adventures. This is values and determination. So let me hop down into the small video window and let's get started. Values and determination. First of all, values. Values, you have 4 on your character sheet when you make your character. These are short phrases or maybe statements that reflect your character's attitudes, their beliefs, their convictions, things that make your character who they are. They can be the words that your character lives by, their motto, or just any kind of short statement that sums up how they feel about important situations. You can use values to even reflect connections with other characters in the game or other institutions that you might encounter or run into or are part of your character's past. These are all going to be things that are significant enough to have shaped the character to be who they are. Taking a look at some official examples from the TNG character pack, character PDF pack, we have Captain Picard. The 4 values he has is duty before all else, haunted by the Borg, loyal to the Federation, and living through one life, I realize what I've missed. Now these, we can see where a lot of these come from in episodes, in specific episodes, major episodes in his life, in his career in Starfleet. Haunted by the Borg, of course, best of both worlds. He was assimilated. Living through one life, I realize what I've missed, through the episode Inner Light, where he lives his entire life or an entire life as with the memories of a person on the planet that was wiped out ages ago. He got to experience another person's life, and that, of course, changed who he was as a person as well. But then we look again, here's another example. Again, it's Picard, but it's Admiral Picard. This is from the Season 1 crew pack from the Star Trek Picard series. Same character, decades later. Picard Season 1 is, I didn't abandon Starfleet, Starfleet abandoned me. I have a mission now. I may never pass this way again, and I'm still mourning Data. And if you watch Picard Season 1, you could see these aspects, these values reflected in his attitude, his behavior, who he is at that moment in time. So if you notice, Captain Picard and Admiral Picard, very different values. Values change over time, and in the game as well, your character's values should change. They should evolve. They should not stay static from beginning to end. That's one of the beautiful parts about this system. Your character is changed and shaped by what they experience, and that's built into the game. Along with values, there's also directives or dictates if you're playing the Klingon game. Directives such as the Prime Directive or any mission-specific orders that your character, your crew, the entire ship may have for your individual episode or your mission. These are used also as like crew-wide values that anyone can access. Anyone, it's part of them as well for that episode, for that mission. So a lot of the pre-made adventures, or when you write your own stories as a GM, you should include what directives are in play for that mission too, and characters can access them as well as their own values. But these ones, the directives or the dictates, they would be shared by all of the players at the table, by the whole crew. Determination is the next big part here. So now that we know what values are, these are the things that shape the narrative of your character. Determination is what turns those values into mechanics. Determination, every game, every adventure, every mission, when you start your episode, again, Star Trek Adventures is sort of designed to play like episodes of a TV show. So each episode you would start with 1 point of determination. And determination is spent to represent your character's drive to succeed in extreme situations, the most difficult situations. This is your special currency for your character to utilize their values of who they are to do something great, to reach down deep and do something bigger than you would normally be able to do with momentum or threat spends. So again, you start with 1 point. You can have up to a maximum of 3 banked on your character sheet, but every episode you start with 1 point, so you can't carry them over into future episodes, future adventures. So let's take a look. What is determination? Determination is tied into values, as I said. And when you use your value, when you call upon your value to do something, this is when you would spend a point of determination. So this would be in the situation where your value is reflected in what's happening on screen. So if it's something that your value connects to the action or the situation that you are in, you could say, I'm using my value, so I'm spending a point of determination to do one of X different effects that determination gives you, which we will get to in a second. So this can be considered, and it's important to note, it could be considered when you use the determination in this way, you're using the value in this way, it could be considered a positive determination spend. So there's going to be a positive spend, a negative spend, and a challenge. And this terminology I'll explain a bit as we get into it. But this is when you're calling on the value, you're spending the point of determination to do something that's considered a positive spend. And that will grant you benefits. Spending a point of determination will grant you one of these benefits. First one, and probably one of the most often used, or the most often used, is automatic successes in the original core rulebook, also called perfect opportunity. This grants a free bonus D20. Again, if you remember from previous episodes, you could roll 2D20 system, so you roll 2 dice all the time when you're the active player, but you could roll up to 3 bonus D20s for a maximum of 5. This grants you one of those 3 additional that you get for free without spending momentum or threat to get this. The difference of gaining this bonus die is you do not roll it with your dice pool. You gain that die into your pool. It's 1 to 5, but you do not roll this die. Instead, it automatically is set as a 1. It's a critical success for using the determination. So this part, I want to emphasize because a lot of people do make that mistake. They might roll it, or they might think it's in addition to the 5 that they can buy, and they have this extra one that grants the critical success. Just keep in mind, 5 is always the maximum. This determination spend perfect opportunity, it grants you one of those 5, the first of the 3 bonus ones you could get, but it's always going to roll a 1, so you don't even have to roll it with your pool. So it comes up as a critical success, and that counts as, of course, 2 successes for your roll. So if you spend a point of determination, you're automatically having 2 successes to go with. You still have 2 dice to roll, and you could buy up to 2 more. That's why it's probably the most common to use, because it helps almost guarantee that you're going to succeed at what you want to do. Not always, but 9 times out of 10, you probably will. Another use is the reroll, also known as the moment of inspiration. You can reroll any number of the dice in your pool. In, I believe, the Starfleet Core Rulebook, the original book, it says reroll all of the dice in your pool. In the Klingon book, it makes it more clear. It's any of the dice that you want to reroll again. I think this isn't used as much because in normal situations, those two successes are really what you're looking for. But let's say you roll a mass of critical failures, complications that you don't need at the time, and you need to get rid of it. So that's a good way to re-roll that, give you a better chance to not do that. Another benefit, you could use determination for an additional task, also known as surge of activity. This is the one where you could take immediately, your character takes a second action. And you're able to do that in combat through other means with momentum, take a second action. The difference is by using determination to do it, the difficulty does not increase for this second action. So that is the key element of where the determination comes in. Next one is called execute in the Klingon book, or make it so in the Federation rulebooks. This is where you immediately create an advantage that applies to the current scene that you're in. So if you don't have a time to do a roll or spend the momentum to try to establish it, this one instantaneously creates it. So mid-action, what you're doing, you have something major that you could perform to happen because of your value that you are initiating this make it so / execute action. Next one is these. I think the next two appear in the Klingon book. I'm not really sure if they appear in the Rules Digest, but they're not in the original core Federation book, if I remember correctly. Next one is ignore injury. So in combat, which we're going to get into in, I believe, the next lesson of STA Academy, in combat, you can ignore the effects of an injury by spending your point of determination. I believe this one is the only one that does not have to be tied in to a value use. So you don't have to relate your value to how you're ignoring the injury. This one, you just spend your point of determination. I believe this is the only one that you don't have to tie into your value use. And the last one is called Special Technique, and this one again only appeared in the Klingon core rulebook, but easy to apply to Starfleet as well. It's called Special Technique. You gain the benefits of a single talent that you do not have. So it's temporarily, for the scene you're in, you are gaining access to another talent that is not written on your sheet. The only caveats are you must already qualify to be able to use it. So you can't take an android talent if you're not an android, for example. And the GM, of course, can veto it if it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't fit with what's happening in the scene, it's just too outlandish. As always, as with anything, the GM can veto it. But it is a very unique and interesting ability that you might be able to jump and do. Maybe you switched out a talent before during character leveling up, and you realize that would be more helpful in this situation now than the one you had. So you already know what it does and you want to jump back to it. It makes sense. Your character already had that talent. He already had that skill. So you could reach back in, do that talent. Situations like that. So those are the benefits that you get by using determination in a positive spend. Again, all except for ignoring injury, you are relating your value, one of your values, you're choosing them, saying how that fits the situation, how that part of your character relates to that situation. Spend the determination, choose which benefit is right for that moment, and there you go. Now, the next big thing is, how do you gain determination? So gaining determination happens if, well, there's two ways. Two ways you could do it is, first, if your value would make the situation more difficult or more complicated, the GM could say to you, I will give you a point of determination if you take a complication for having this value. And the complication could be something that prevents you from doing the action that you want to do, or stops you from doing something that normally you would want to do as a player, as someone trying to help out the team, but your character, maybe their value clashes with what's going on there. So the GM could say, if your character does not help instead, because this goes against the value that you have on your sheet, I will give you a point of determination. Now, you don't have to accept. The player doesn't have to accept in this situation. But if the player does accept, they get the point of determination, and they have to accept the complication, whatever it is. This is called as, or can be viewed as, a negative value use. And again, this terminology will become important later, so keep in mind, spending determination to use your value to do something that's positive, having your value stop you or change how you would do it, or make more difficult how you would do something because of what you believe in, because of your attitude towards the situation. That's a negative value use. But negative gives you a determination that you could then use for a positive use, of course. Also, players can suggest, it doesn't have to be the GM, players can suggest on their own, like, I have this value and I think that clashes with what's happening now. I think it would be hard for my character to really do this because he believes so strongly in this. It's one of his values. So you could suggest, I would like to take a complication in exchange for a point of determination, and then the GM will give you the determination, give you the complication, and the scene will play out in that way with the negative value use. Now, only for a single task, for a single moment, only one positive or one negative value use can be applied to a single task. So if the value is going to hurt you, you can't then have the value help you at the same time. So you can't say, like, this value is keeping me from doing this, but I also believe in that, which is going to make me do it. That doesn't work like that. So if you take a negative value, you gain the determination, you can't then spend determination on a different value saying that that also counters what you're doing. So only one positive or only one negative for a single task. Now the second way, the other way you can get a point of determination is by challenging a value. And this is similar to the negative value use, where your value maybe clashes with what's happening in the scene. So in that case, you can say, instead of taking a negative, you are challenging your value, because what's happening is changing the way your character sees the situation, changing the way your character believes, feels about the situation, because they are experiencing something that goes against what they originally thought, what they originally believed. So when you challenge a value, you cross out that value on your character sheet. It's now gone. But you gain a point of determination. So that value is now gone, because now whatever's happening in the scene is totally changing the way you view that aspect, that value about yourself. So you cross it out, but you gain that point of determination. This can only be done once per mission, and it can be done with any value basically that would cause complication in that scene, but it can only be done one time. You cross out, you gain that point of determination, but unlike a negative value use, you can immediately spend that new point of determination on a positive value use. But of course, it's going to be using a different value because you crossed out the value that gained you that determination. So something happens, your character realizes their beliefs are being challenged. This is not exactly fitting in with how they viewed the situation. It's now gone. Get the determination, and now maybe you can apply a different value to assisting in that situation. So that's one good way of comboing how it would work. And also it works if you're already out of determination. You have no more determination. You already spent it for this episode. Challenging a value is a good way to get that point and then spend it immediately. If, of course, it makes sense, if it fits what's going on, and if the GM approves, of course. Now, when the mission is over, when the episode is over, when that episode you're playing is finished, you had your challenge value you crossed out. When it's finished, you get to rewrite, because you go back to 4 values, you get to rewrite your value, preferably, in my opinion, to reflect what happened, why their value changed, what their new view of that value is. It could be an entirely different value because of it, or it could be slightly different, but it should be changed. It should not go back to what the original value was, unless for whatever the outcome was, it just reinforced it again. So I thought this, but what was happening here made me think, no, that's not it. I might be wrong. But then as the episode progressed, like, no, I was right to begin with. Possibly. But I suggest, much like in the example of Captain Picard, changing by the time he's Admiral Picard, your value should change as well. You should gain something different, something new, a different way of looking at the world, because you challenged a previously held belief. So that is determination. Values and determination. Values, those are the 4 sayings that make up who you are. Determination is the currency you spend to use those values to alter the game mechanically. I think it's hard for new players to really grab on to how to use values, how to use determination, how to make values even when they're making characters. So I think GMs really should support the players in that. So let me jump out of here for my 3 GM tips for values and determination. First, number 1, just reflecting back what I was just saying a moment ago, during session 0, GMs, you should really help your players with their values. Let them come up with them on their own. You could give suggestions, of course, but make sure their values are actually values. Sometimes characters just write maybe something too vague or too general that is more suited as a focus rather than values. Think quotes, think personal mottos, think personal sayings, words to live by. Think along those lines for values and help your players come up with them. If you don't understand what a value means and your player can't adequately explain what it means as a belief for who that character is, help them change it, help them rewrite it, reword it until it's something that you can understand. Tip number 2 is, once you have all your players come up with values, keep a list of those values with you during the gameplay. If you see a moment that comes up, the situation, because the game's going to be organic, it's going to be flowing. If a situation comes up and you spot one of your character's values that ties in, that could be used positively, negatively, or maybe a chance to challenge it, bring it up, especially if the character doesn't notice it. Bring it up with them. Let them know, like, oh, your value really fits in well here. Or if there's a challenging combat, challenging task, and the players are overwhelmed, they don't know what to do, you have the list of the values there. Scan them and give suggestions like, well, this fits in, this situation relates to your value, character 1. If you want, you could use it positively, spend it, rerolls, get 2 successes, however. So help players keep their values in mind. And tip number 3 for values and determination is, when you are prepping an episode, whether it's a pre-published scenario or you are writing your own episode, keep those values in mind. And when you are prepping before the game even starts, look for encounters, look for situations where individual character values might be highlighted. Again, either positively, negatively, or a chance to challenge them. Find those moments, make a memo there, write it down, write which value it is, so you know where to focus the drama, where to focus the attention when those encounters come up, especially, again, if the players themselves don't realize that that's a great chance to use their values. So 3 tips for GMs. I hope that makes sense to you, but I love values, especially during character creation. These are giving you insight into who the characters are as you are building them. It's a great thing, and then you have it on your paper reminding you of who that character is that you built, and how you should probably conduct yourself, how you should respond in certain situations. So players, you should constantly be looking at your values and thinking about them, especially in relation to what's happening on screen at the time in the episode, and finding ways not just to use it positively, but use it negatively. That's where the drama comes from. Fail a task because it goes against what your character believes in. Get to that point of determination and find the best, most interesting, dramatic way to redeem that failure that you brought on yourself. Find the way to challenge what your character believes in so you can rewrite it and show how they are growing as a character through their experiences. Values are amazing. Focus on them, take a look at them, keep them in mind, and keep using them as much as you can in every episode. And that's it. Thank you for joining me for this lesson. I will see you next time in lesson 5, which I believe we are finally going to be going into combat. So if you have any questions, comments, or your own opinions, please write them in the comments down below, or find us on social media, on X, not Twitter anymore apparently, Blue Sky, Instagram. We are there even if we're not talking, but we do respond to everything. But thank you for joining us. As always, stay safe out there, my friends. Be well, live long and prosper. Peace and long life. I'll see you.